Testing mic one.
Keep going.
Testing mic two. Testing mic two. Mic two.
Okay, you might be a little soft, so
Soft.
you can
Okay.
speak up a little.
That's better. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Test mic 4, test mic 4, mic 4, test mic 4, mic 4, test mic 4.
4 is good. 2
Thanks.
is
Testing microphone 6, testing microphone 6, microphone 6.
good.
Testing microphone 7, microphone 7.
7 is good. Okay, go ahead.
Testing mic 9, test mic 9.
9 is good.
Testing, this is mic 10, testing. Is that working?
That's good.
Testing mic 11, testing mic 11.
11 is good. Oh, wait, 10, 11, okay.
Testing podium mic, test podium mic. Wireless mic, test wireless mic. Okay, all yours, sir.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Nevada Unified School District's Board of Trustee meeting. If you would all please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, thank you. So we're going to go ahead and get started and with our announcements of reportable action out of closed session, and Vice President Butler will make those announcements.
Okay, the board did meet in closed session this evening on 3 items. The first item, with respect to every item of business to be discussed in closed session, public employees discipline, dismissal, release. Information was provided to the board. The second item, with respect to every item of business to be discussed in closed session pursuant to Government Code 54957 and 54957.6. Conference with labor negotiator Barbara Varenkovich, attorney Dennis Walliver Kelly, Employees Organization, California State Employees Association, otherwise known as CSEA. Information was provided to the board. The last item, with respect to every item of business to be discussed in closed session pursuant to Government Code 54957 and 54957.6. Conference with labor's negotiator Barbara Varenkovich, attorney Dennis Walliver Kelly, Employees Organization, Nevada Federation of Teachers, otherwise known as NFT. We gave direction to staff. And that concludes our closed session announcements.
Okay, I'm going to just announce that Trustee Aguila is out ill tonight, and Trustee Mack will not be here either. He is on vacation. So we will pick up our agenda with approval of tonight's agenda, which is item 7. So I need the trustees to know that we have 3 additional addendum items for discussion action items on the agenda. So I think they're just updated versions of what we had received earlier, and I'll let staff explain what those differences are when they present.
Move tonight's agenda, order of business.
Thank you, Trustee Moak. Seconded by Trustee Jacobson. All those in favor? We have 5 in the affirmative, and I have 2 positive advisory votes and 2 absent. So we will move ahead with the agenda as slated. Next is approval of our consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that trustees would like pulled and to be addressed individually?
Staff would like to pull. Staff would like to pull H and I, just so that we have an update on the air conditioning.
Okay, so we will pull H and I. Any other items on the? Okay, so then I need a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda without items H or I.
So moved.
First by Trustee Milrick, seconded by Trustee Jacobson. Thank you. All those in favor? We got 5 in favor, 2 advisory in favor, and 2 absent. So the consent agenda has been adopted without items H and I. And I'm going to turn it over to the superintendent for the update now, or would you like to do that later?
Oh, Mike's here. Okay, very good. I didn't see him over there. So, as you know, we had a hot spell, and three of our schools do not have air conditioning, although they were scheduled to get done this summer. Mike did an excellent job trying to get the latest information to the principal so he could share with the staff, and we just thought we would talk about it a little bit tonight. So anything you'd like to add, Mike?
Sure. Just these two items that were pulled is trying to get ahead of the game for once, to get board approval to go out to bid. We're still planning on going out around December timeframe, maybe January, depending on how the market, how competitive it is. The good news is we've got all our equipment. It's sitting stored right now for Novato and for Lou Sutton, so we don't have to worry about that. As far as Hill, we are working on getting a list of equipment to try to come to you for permission to go out to order that, probably in late October, early November, so we can meet the long lead time to have that equipment on site before the summer. But having these two items approved by you tonight gives us a flexibility. If the market does change, we don't have to wait. And I know that in the fall and winter with elections and a lot of other things coming up, it gets very busy and it's hard to get things in front of you quickly. So this gives us that flexibility to go out as soon as we think it's a great competitive market to get those contracts out for bid. And happy to answer any other questions.
Okay, so anybody have any questions about, go ahead, Trustee
So
Miller.
just a quick, you said Hills pending, Lou Sutton and Nevada were both pending. Those are there any other facilities, any other classrooms that will not have air conditioning when these three projects are complete?
No, that completes all of our district classrooms. at
Okay,
schools.
thank you, sir.
Okay, so I'll accept the motion to approve H and I on the consent agenda.
I so move.
Trustee Jacobson first, seconded by Trustee Gaston. Thank you. All those in favor? 5 in favor, 2 positive advisory, and 2 absent. So we will approve you to go out for bid as soon as possible,
Thank you.
or per your
Thank you.
plans. Thank you.
Our new board.
I don't want to. Oh, that's right. So, okay. So our next agenda item is number 9, and this is where our board and superintendent and student trustees announce and let us know what's going on at their particular sites. But we have a new student trustee board member tonight, and I want to say thank you for being here and welcome. We look forward to working with you this year, and I hope we get a chance to hear what you have to say on these issues as they come forward. But if you wouldn't mind, can you go ahead and introduce yourself and maybe tell us a little bit about yourself before you let us know what's going on at the high school?
Sure. So, hello everyone. My name is Alejandro Manacho. I'm a current third-year student at San Marin. I take part in leadership, a bunch of various clubs and activities outside of school, and I look forward to giving you input on whatever I can at San Marin. Regarding San Marin, so currently we're planning homecoming right now with parade and floats. That's a huge thing with Novato High as well. I think one of the most important things when planning homecoming is making sure these parades and floats are up to the highest quality as possible, because a lot of times when we plan them and build them and buy the materials for them, we sometimes don't exactly go through with all the plans we can because time constraints and everything. So right now we're just trying our best to make sure the parade and floats are of the highest quality possible. We're working on making sure events and games are available to students at the highest rate possible. In the past, leadership and clubs and organizations part of San Marin haven't been doing the best job at getting information out. So this year we've really been trying our best to hang up posters, use social media to our utmost ability to really get information out, not only to the students but to the parents. And yeah, if anyone has any questions, I'm always available as well. So
Okay, no, that's fine. That's great.
thank you.
Mr. Solis?
Hi. We had a pretty good, successful few events last week. On Wednesday, we had a club fair with over 40 clubs. Really high attendance at all of them. We have over like 40 clubs, which is really cool. And then on Friday during lunch, we had our wellness fair. Super high attendance in the quad. We had different like community partners and organizations come in to promote mental health wellness, and it was like a really inclusive space. It worked really well. September is a very busy month. This week we're going into, tomorrow actually, we're announcing homecoming court nominations for royalty. And then, just like Alejandro said, we're hitting the ground running with homecoming planning. We've had a few really successful meetings to ideate and get our floats and parade locations going. We had a small scare about not being able to go on Grant Avenue, but it's looking good now. And yeah, we're just looking forward to October 15th for homecoming.
All right, thank you. Trustee Milrick.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have only a few comments. I'm going to be able to visit San Marin this Thursday. I'm going to be meeting with instructor Luis DeSantos and go over the multimedia program and the advanced computer programming class. And if I see Greg Irish, I'll talk to him about the Cisco Academy. So just a chance to visit and come up to speed on what you guys are currently doing. Thank you.
Right, very good. Trustee Jacobson.
I went to the Budget Advisory Committee. That group is now working on future planning around budget versus last year's sort of in-the-moment planning, which is great. I attended the District Special Education Committee. I hope that we can start talking about making sure that we have cameras on all of our sites soon. And I did another site visit. Thank you.
Okay. Trustee Gasson.
Participated in JLAC. I think that was last week. Always informative and helpful to keep up to date on different things that are in front of the governor's desk. I also was at the Special Education Committee meeting. That went really well. We're looking forward to incorporating some new things this year for our SPED community. I also had some site visits and meetings with different community members, which were all really informative as we kicked the year off. And today I was at Pleasant Valley. I asked to come back to my daughter's first grade teacher's class, and it was adorable sitting and reading with the kids. So hoping to do that again. I just really believe in the importance of being able to read, and by third grade, it's really critical. So I'm going to get in there early with those first graders. And on the consent agenda, we just approved the new Parcel Tax Oversight Committee members, and I just want to say thank you to those who are joining the group.
Okay, good. Trustee Butler.
Yeah, I attended the Efficiency and Effectiveness Committee, which is a county-wide committee driven by Marin County Office of Education. And I've been on there for a number of years, and we're just continually having the conversation of how districts across the county work together, collaborate, working efficiency, like sharing staff members and things like that, sharing services. We're working on creating a visual that kind of shows that, so that'll be forthcoming in the next few months.
Okay, briefly, I also attended JLAC, and we were treated to a host of potential new bills coming out. There seems to be a lot of emphasis on getting home to school, the transportation back into public education, and they've actually started talking about the correct dollar amounts to do so. So that was good. I think some good news. There are some other issues, but we'll be sure to make you aware of anything that's alarm ringing and we need support on to change things up in Sacramento. And unfortunately, I had to miss our school fuel board meeting, which was yesterday, the first one I've missed in a few years, I think. But my company was in the middle of a MIS data migration project, and I just couldn't get away. So I'll expect to hear from Susan Matthews, and if anything important comes of that, I'll be sure to let you know. So that concludes my report, and Superintendent.
Okay, I just want to do a little update on the superintendent search. We're very excited to be getting started. Walt Buster and Francesca Whitcomb and I are working together on it. We've already had the district administrative team, CSEA leadership, NFT leadership, and special education advisory. So we're getting input all the way, so it's great. But we have a thought exchange coming up for the community and for staff and anyone who would like to give us information. It's going to be an open thought exchange, and it'll be from October 2nd to the 15th, and then we'll gather that information and provide it to Walt and our team so that we can see the commonalities. We'd like people to talk about qualities, characteristics, expertise, and experience. That's what seems to be coming up through all of the meetings that we've had. Some of those things are important. So upcoming meetings are for the Blue Ribbon Committee. The Outreach Committee will be 6 o'clock on October 17th. And then at 7 o'clock, he'll do school site councils here. And then October 19th, it'll, at 6 o'clock, the general public in this meeting, in this building where we are now. October 20th, the DLAC, and we'll have interpretation. And October 21st will be community partners. And then in November, we go out to PTA council, and then the board workshop is November 8th. So that's really important for us to get the information. You'll get all the information from all the groups. So we're excited about it. We already have been contacting some candidates, so it feels really good.
Okay, I have,
Can I just add?
no, absolutely, sure.
Can we make a button on the website that people can click on? It says superintendent search. I don't think that's on there yet.
Do we have something like that?
Yeah, I think we need to develop a webpage.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Just
Okay.
and just,
That I know,
you know.
Fred and I talked about,
Okay.
so absolutely.
As we're getting these dates out and things, I think it would be good. Okay.
Yeah. We do have the calendar posted, though.
I believe so,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, I thought we did. Let's do I think that's a good idea, Deb. Yeah. So that, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Good suggestion. Okay, so as part of tonight's announcement, I want to take a minute to recognize a Novato television employee who's been filming our meetings for 16 years now. And that's about as long as I've been on this board. So you and I have been doing this together, and it's odd that we're kind of like maybe leaving around the same time. So interesting how that works. But just wanted to recognize your years of service. You've, to my knowledge, you've only missed 2 meetings in all those years. And so come on out, because we've got an award for you. And I think a big round of applause is appropriate for Shannon Foley, who's going to be leaving. Got a little certificate for recognition, and hopefully you'll let us take your picture.
Absolutely, I'm right here.
And we just want to recognize that. Yeah, okay. So we're going to.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Would you like to introduce?
And then turn it over to Bob TV if you got an announcement for us.
Stay here. Well, that's me. So Shannon's been here, as you know, for 16 years. Right. Get on the mic, Pam. Shannon's been with us for 16 years, even almost as long as I have been here. And I think of those 16 years, he's maybe missed 2 meetings. And that's it. I mean, how am I going to replace that loyalty? You've got some big shoes here, but we've got Eden Miller, who's training under Shannon, as am I. So we're Shannon's. But it takes 2 of us to do this job that Shannon can do. And behind the scenes, he can like be eating a hamburger, having a conversation, reading a book, and just switching. That's how good he is at this job. So he's going to be missed, and I'm going to stop talking before I break down.
Well, I want to welcome you. I look forward to working with you. Don't be a stranger, okay? Really appreciate the work you've done for us.
Hey, I appreciate it.
And if you have anything you'd like to say, I'd be happy to hear.
I don't know, I'm kind of put on the spot here. I started in 2006, a long time ago it seems. And at that time, I was just coming in to help a friend do something in the local public access station. And yeah, she was in here doing her show, and at the time Rick was still here, and the meeting was going on. It was very busy. He's like, "Hey, you want to make $20?" And so he has me come in and do the meeting. He's like, "Okay, and I guess I picked it up very well, and he offered me a job doing it permanently, and I've been here ever since."
What do you do with your free time now?
Oh, relax. I work full-time up in Santa Rosa now, so yeah, it's gonna give me my evening back.
Good luck to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, so that will conclude our announcements, and we're going to move on to item 10, which is presentations, and we're going to have Marin Oaks High School and the Hill Education Center, and Principal Kessa Early will present.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for inviting us to come today. So I have the pleasure of introducing our two teachers, our teacher, Mr. Pacman, and our Bridges coordinator, who is also our college and career coordinator, Krista Peach. And so they're going to tell you a little bit about what you're going to see today, and we are excited that we have all of our students that are going to be sharing what they've experienced as, so here we go.
All right. Hi, everyone. As Kat said, my name is Jeff Packman, and I'm the Bridges teacher. First, I want to thank you all for having us here today to share with you a little bit about the Bridges program and all the wonderful things our students are doing in the class. So first off, I want to share with you what the Bridges program is. So it's essentially our college and career readiness class, and it's designed to help students figure out what they want to do after high school and develop the skills necessary to get there. So some of our focus areas are all students in the class develop a resume in the first quarter, and we do interview skills with them leading up to a mock interview towards the middle or end of the year. We have a lot of guest speakers that come in and share with students things about their career, what they do at their job. We have a college class. College Marin comes onto our campus and teaches a class for both of our Bridges classes, and we do future life planning. And right now we have two. We have a beginning Bridges class and an advanced Bridges class. Community partnerships are a huge and important part of the Bridges program. So we have, as I was saying before, a partnership with College Marin. They currently are teaching two classes on our campus. So the beginning Bridges class takes a counseling course called Internship Preparations and Job Search Strategies. And then the advanced Bridges course is taking a business course called the Entrepreneurial Mindset. And it's a great experience for our kids, and they've been doing really, really well in the class, and everything's done on campus. We also have a partnership with Novato Inspirations, and those are two community members that volunteer and come into the Bridges class 2 or 3 times a month. They line up a lot of our guest speakers who also live in Novato, most of them, and they share with the class things about their career and let the kids ask them questions so they can learn more. And then last but not least, we have a great partnership with the Marin County Office of Education. And actually, Mr. Glasgow is here today. He comes to our class once a week. And the kids call him the internship guy, but that's not his title, but he helps students with job shadows that they're interested and lining up internships throughout the year. So I'm going to turn it over to Krista.
All right, and just to follow up on what Jeff was saying, we really want to prepare our kids to launch after high school. So we do a lot around career exploration with the guest speakers and career research projects. We also really want to focus on the wide variety of pathways that are available to students after graduation. So last we were able to do a College Marin field trip, and this year we get to expand to do SRJC as well, hopefully a state school. And again, we do research projects around that as well. As Jeff said, we do resumes, so we want our kids to be resume ready and ready to go and do a job interview. So their resumes are prepared and ready to be updated as they gain new skills and experiences. Again, interview skills are really important, and so we spend a lot of time preparing them and making sure that they're ready and comfortable when they get into an interview situation. And we've had students really express that that was super helpful for them, and it made them much more comfortable when they were going for job interviews. And then again, with Mr. Glasgow, we're really trying to personalize the experiences and in-person experiences for students to help them gain real-world experiences and a chance to see what things are like in the career areas that they're interested in. So we're really here to, well, this is just a quick picture montage, mostly from last year, to kind of showcase how many different outside groups become part of our Bridges program and how enriching that is for our students. And then, and then also just to highlight that our support does not end when the students graduate. I work a lot with students in the summer and in the early fall as they're getting ready to launch into their college courses to make sure that they're able to be registered and any questions they have, and then connect them to the correct support systems on the campuses. And then getting to hear the success stories with the students is one of the great highlights. And so now the real joy of tonight is getting to meet our students and what it's like for them to be a part of the Bridges program. So first I'd like to introduce you to Danya.
Hello everybody, I'm Danya. I'm a senior. I'm a senior at Marin Oaks. I'm interested in becoming a tattoo artist or working in the culinary industry. My dream is to have my own bakery or restaurant, if not both. Right now, I'm in the process of setting up a job shadow or internship with Mr. Galasco, our education to career specialist from Marin County Office of Education. One of the many things I like about Bridges is that it encourages us to get real world experiences and helps us connect to the people in the community doing the jobs that we are interested in.
And now we'd like to invite Juan up.
Good afternoon. My name is Juan Lugo. I'm a senior at Marin Oaks, and I'm interested in working in the automotive industry. My plan is to graduate in December, work for the next semester, and take mechanic classes at College of Marin in the fall. Last year, I was in the beginning level of Bridges. I really liked that we took the college class and counseling class. I found it helpful that we spent time working on interview expectations and skills. I think the college class helped me feel more prepared for college after I graduate. And that's it. Yeah.
And now I'd like to introduce you to Marshall.
Hello everybody, my name is Marshall Cuthbertson and I'm also a senior at Marin Oaks. I aspire on becoming a therapist, especially in the mental health counseling field, and I really appreciate that Bridges prepares us for the real world by motivating us to look for outside sources that really lead to our success. I'm currently working with Mr. Glasgow and setting up an interview with a therapist or a counselor to look more into my dream career and continue to help me set up for success in the future. And one thing I'm really looking forward to is working more with my peers and helping me towards my dream job and figure out what steps I need to take to get there.
Thank you, Marshall. Now I'd like to introduce you to Kevin.
Hello, good afternoon. I am Kevin Koopa. I am a senior at Marin Oaks, and I plan on graduating in December. Last year I was in the beginning Bridges class, and I really enjoyed it. It helped me, the field trip really helped me choose a career that I wanted to do. I also think that the guest speakers are very helpful because they give us a real feedback, and I also plan on becoming a mechanic. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Stephanie, would you mind coming up?
Hi, my name is Stephanie Rosales, and I'm a senior at Marin Oaks. What I appreciate about the Bridges program is that it gives us an insight into what our future will look like by giving us the opportunity to learn more. I'm excited to be doing research on colleges and careers. Specifically, I'm looking into the medical field. One cool thing that happened this year was that we created a resume in class and used it right away to get a job. It made the process of getting a job really easy and not stressful. I'm graduating early and plan to take classes at College of Marin in the spring. And the Bridges class and teachers have given me the confidence to pursue this, and I believe I can do it.
Thank you, Stephanie. And last but definitely not least, I'd like to introduce you to Sean.
Good evening, everyone. Sean Doherty. I'm a Marin Oaks graduate. I'm currently enrolled in SRJC and plan on continuing to a four-year university. Bridges really got me into college. I was not planning on going to school, so it really helped get everything set up and get me into college. It also gave me a bunch of opportunities to talk to multiple different people from multiple careers to help me decide on what my area of study would be, depending on what I liked. And it's a lot of confidence when talking to employers and interview skills. Thank you.
Any questions?
You guys got any questions or comments on Bridges? Yeah, Trustee Jacobson.
Just comment. Thank you, students, for coming and talking to us. That was so great to hear what you're doing and what you're working on. And thank you, teachers and CASA, for building this amazing program. Skills like targeting what you might want to do and then going and finding someone to talk about are things that all of us can be better at, and they will be able to use that forever, and that's so helpful. And I really appreciate that you guys are making sure that these students have so many things that they need for their life.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions? Okay, well,
Everyone up for a photo.
Everyone up for a photo.
And I just
Good
want
job.
to say that we really have to thank our funders, because without the grant, we receive a $90,000 grant every year to make this program happen. And so it is really important work. And so we're really, really thankful. And we're so proud of our students for the growth that they demonstrate each and every day. So let's get up and get a picture of everybody.
Fabulous job. We thank you so much. Having the students here makes all the difference. We love the teachers and the administrators, but having the students brings it to life. So thank you so much.
I'm getting in the picture.
Yes, you are getting in the picture. Amazing job. Thanks so much.
It's amazing what you can do with an education, so good job. All right, let's move on and get to our non-agenda public comment. This is the period of the meeting where individuals may address the board on issues that are not on tonight's agenda. And we have a 3-minute limit for each speaker. And because the items are not on tonight's agenda, the board really cannot comment in depth on what the speaker has to say, but we will listen and go from there. So our first speaker is, in fact, the only speaker is Gary Novak. So Mr. Novak, welcome back.
That was awesome. Bridges, to me, that's education. I like to see that. Give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. This parable encapsulates literacy and lifelong intellectual growth. To accomplish student literacy, NUSD must continue to limit class sizes for kindergarten through the 3rd grade. Because when I see small class sizes and parents in classrooms, I have observed improved literacy rates from my lived experience. I have served 2 tours of duty as a classroom parent with my children in 3 different districts. In my estimation, the small teacher-to-student ratio in the classrooms and hands-on parents facilitating small groups greatly aided the San Ramon Elementary School teachers, led by Amanda Langford, in their effort to teach our daughter to read, write, add, subtract, multiply, and divide. Our daughter left San Ramon Elementary School literate, and now she can fish on her own. Literate students can build a venerable Tower of Babel if allowed. However, I question if my daughter will be able to fish on her own, matriculating through NUSD schools. While I used to think of a school as a body of water with lifeguards to assist with baiting hooks and making sure nobody drowned, currently I think we're sending our schools to fish processing factories. For example, the teaching of the genderbread person as settled science to 7th graders. NUSD performed well in teaching our daughter the basics, yet I question whether NUSD is a fishing pond with lifeguards or a fish stick factory under the supervision of progressively rigid, ideologically dogmatic extremists. In closing, I would like to remind the NUSD Board of Trustees that parents just need their children's in grade through 6 to be occupied during the day. Call it supervised fishing for both mom and dad to go to work to pay the property tax bill. Tonight, I ask the trustees to make sure the pond is stocked with a diversity of aquatic fauna so all can discover their unique interests in life. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Novak. Okay, so we're going to move on to our next item, and that will be a public hearing. And this is a public hearing on sufficiency of instructional materials around the Williams Act of 2022 through 2023. So I will open official public hearing for comment. And we have no official public comment on our Williams Act report. So I will close that public hearing and move on to our next item, which is 13. This is a discussion action part of the meeting, and item A is going to be the approval of our 21-22 unaudited actual financial report, and our Chief Financial Officer, Lois Standing, will present. Welcome, Lois.
Thank you. Oh, there it is. Okay. A little too fancy for me. Hello. So we made it through another fiscal year. And what that brings us to, for those who have not experienced this joy before, are our unaudited actuals, which we're required to do. There are year-end financial statements, that represent our financial standing as of the end of the year. These forms are prepared over several weeks of lots and lots of work, and then they are the basis for which our financial audit happens. The auditors take these forms, do all kinds of tests on the numbers to verify that we did everything correctly and that this truly represents the financial stance of the district as of June 30th, 2022. And it's important to note, I will emphasize this over and over, these are actuals. It is the only time of the year that we actually really focus on actuals. All of the other reports that I come up here and talk to you about are budget. So it is just important to keep that in mind. When you look at the documents that are in this report, it shows the unaudited actuals, and then it compares it to what the budget was that we prepared for June 30th, just to say, okay, here's how we close the year out, and then here's what we're proposing for next year. So it's an interesting way to look at the two. But it's to be remembered at all times that the budget is the best we know at that moment, whereas the unaudited actuals, they're real. That's what actually happened in the district from a financial point of view. Okay. So another way to look at the unaudited actuals is to compare them to estimated actuals. Estimated actuals were back when we adopted the budget, you had the budget, and then you were comparing those to what we thought the end of the year numbers would be at that time before the books were closed. So this chart is a looking at how those estimated actuals compare to what really happened. And if we just go down, the revenues, it's almost $1 million, but in perspective, that's not a huge amount for a budget of about 105 million. And what that mostly has to do with are restricted funds. When there are certain pots of money, such as Title I, Title II, the federal funds. If you get the revenue, but you don't spend it, then it becomes a deferred revenue, and you have to push it into the next year. So it leaves the books for the current year. So that's most of what is happening there. And then we get to the big line, the expenditures. We had, at the end of the year, when we were doing the budget, it looked like we'd be spending 105 million, but when we closed everything out, it was actually only 98 million. So what that says is there were lots of unspent dollars. That was at the site level, that was at the department level, a lot of grants that we got money for that we perhaps had plans for. There's about $1 million of carryover in our LCFF supplemental funding. We've gotten so much one-time money, it's very difficult to make sure we spend that all on a regular basis, and that's something we're going to work to do better this year, is to actually make a plan for how we're going to spend what we have over the time that we have that money to spend. Other sources, that's insignificant, but just to understand what that is, it's any sort of transfers that we make between resources or between funds. Some examples of that are we receive redevelopment fees, and they go into a special resource for use with mostly facility issues. Food service, this year we actually took $40,000 back from food service. We had been giving them a contribution each year as part of our LCAP goals and actions, but the fact is at this point our food service department doesn't need that. They are doing just fine and working at quite a surplus. So there's things like that that fit into that other sources and uses. So then we see the change, which is merely a math issue, that at estimated actuals it looked like we were going to have a deficit of 639,000, but because of all that, those expenditures that didn't happen, we actually have a positive 5.2 million. So we add that to what the beginning fund balance is, and you can see the beginning fund balance is the same in both cases because that's a known number. And then we're looking at a $20 million ending fund balance at estimated actuals, when in reality we have a $26 million fund balance. And there's a slide in a little bit that will break that balance out to what it is made up of. Any questions on this chart? Okay. Okay. All right. Just for a little bit of just knowledge, because as you'll see when we look at the fund balance, there's a little over $10 million in restricted reserves. And this is some of what makes up those restricted reserves. We have our restricted lottery, which is meant for instructional materials. A lot of that is held at the sites and doesn't get spent every year. So we are encouraging them to spend that money first. It's restricted. It can be used for all different kinds of instructional materials, things that actually the kids interact with. So there's lots of choices for that. Site donations is another large unspent source of money. You can see together we're about $4 million right there. Then it goes on down, some large, some small, but it's just kind of interesting. I will point out we have the ELO, Expanded Learning Opportunity Program. We have ELO Grant, Expanded Learning Opportunity Grant. The grant is COVID money that we still are in the process of spending. We're trying to do a lot of intervention personnel for school sites, both classified and certificated. But the EL program is the new money that is meant to extend learning time. To do this program, we have to have 9 hours of engagement time in a day, an extra 30 days in the summer. So we are working to create a program to be able to use that money. Our current allocation, this is money from last year, the first year. This year our allocation is a little over $2 million. So it's a large sum of money that we need to figure out how to use effectively. Okay, any questions on that? Yes.
Do we have more than one
I thought
hand
I
up? saw-
saw-
Oh, I'm sorry. I just saw Trustee Miller, so I'm going to go with him first, and then you wanted to ask questions? Okay.
So just to be clear, these are funds that we have not yet decided how we're going to use? Is that what, these are basically reserved cash in bank, and we can use them to improve the program over the next year based on
Year to
operation?
5 years. Some of it's ongoing. The ELO program that I just described, the 9-hour day, that will be ongoing. That's not one-time money. That's
So it's the money that's here, which is from last year, plus
Yes.
there's going to be a contribution
Correct.
coming this year that we can use for the purposes.
Correct.
It has to be used for the purposes identified, right?
It is restricted money, and that's what is meant by that definition. Now, some of this money, my best example is educator effectiveness. You actually approved a plan for how we are going to spend that money. It was fairly general, because as you can see, it's a large sum of money, but we have a guidelines for how we're going to go about spending a big chunk of those funds.
Okay, and just for context, we are $100 million a year enterprise. Our enterprise, our expenditure base, which is probably the most stable number, is $100 million. And so while these look like big numbers, they're a small percentage of our total operating.
It's about 10% of our budget.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Trustee Gasson.
So for the item site donations, can you give an example of what that would be?
It could be almost anything that a site might get. A large piece of this last year, do you remember, there was an anonymous donation to Olive School for $100,000. That has not been spent yet, a small piece, so that's in there. It could be as simple as field trip money that went in, and maybe the field trip didn't cost as much, the field trip got canceled, that's considered donations. So it's anything that outside sources give to a school site to do something with.
Okay.
I mean, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it's a large amount.
I could certainly look into it and get you more detail.
I just was trying to put my head around exactly what that meant, because it's like you said, I was assuming that it was money that went to individual schools for something, but I couldn't figure out what it.
I think
or like
what
if somebody got a grant, like if a school, I know, didn't Lynn, no.
It would be school fuel grants that are
That too,
as yet
okay.
unspent. It would be PTA grants that are yet unspent. And I think one of the issues are school sites never quite spend all of their donations, and over years it accumulates. So I think that's what you're seeing, the accumulation of several years of money not being totally spent out.
Okay, so I guess we'll move on.
Okay. All right, so here is a breakdown of the fund balance. You can see at the top is the 26 million that we looked at before, and then right under that is the 10 million that we just looked through. So left beyond that, committed reserves, those are the dollars that at the adoption of budget, the board made, you've passed a resolution to commit these dollars for various purposes: asset management, technology, maintenance, I should say deferred maintenance. So that's the 9 million. Then we're required to have a 3% reserve for economic uncertainties. That's the 2.9. And then we have non-spendable, a small amount of money. That's our bank account. It's inventory, things like that. And then at the end is what is not otherwise appropriated or designated of 4.2 million. And what's interesting to look at that, we're required to have a 3%. You have passed a policy for a 16.67% unrestricted fund balance reserve. And just in round numbers, the 2.9 is 3 million. So I'm going to say $1 million is 1% for Novato, which when you're a $100,000 budget, that makes sense. So we actually have right here, we have 9 and 3, and then down below 4.2. So that takes us to about 15.3. And then we also have $5 million in Fund 17 that is considered unrestricted. And so overall, 15.3 and then 6.67. So we're over 20% in our fund balance, unrestricted. That is not considering the restricted money as part of fund balance, because that has a specific way it needs to be spent. Any questions there?
Yeah, we do. Go ahead, Blaine.
I'm kind of curious, where does that 4.2 of unappropriated money come from if the economic uncertainty is already kind of accounted for?
So that's just looking at everything we have, and when we do those different commitments and what's restricted, it's what's left over. So it's sort of, I wouldn't say it's a surplus, it just at this point doesn't have any set purpose for use.
But would be allocated as needed?
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
Let us know if you have any ideas.
Okay. And then last of all, what's next? So first interim, it's just around the corner, and that's the biggest pieces of the first interim report is we'll have the true enrollment for this year, which has not been reflected in any financial statement yet, as well as staffing. So we'll have all the pieces in place. The numbers will be pretty solid for those two items, which will give us a very good picture of what this year is going to look like. We're going to push and do a hard planning time for one-time expenditures. Not quite sure how we will present that to the board, but we will use many brains of the staff of Novato Unified to figure out how to use millions of dollars, basically. Yes, one-time money, yes. We have our Budget Advisory Committee, which was mentioned a little earlier, and it is a little different this year. It feels very good to not have to go in there and say, okay, we got to cut whatever. This time the group, and they're doing it with much passion, is looking at ways that we can improve the efficiencies, the attractiveness, just make Novato Unified, from a financial point of view, a more well-run establishment. So I'm excited to see that the plan is to bring some sort of recommendation. It might be one thing, it might be two things, to the board in February. That the group is doing the work to figure out what would be a reasonable recommendation for the board. And then lastly, we of course will be entering negotiations, and that, depending on when negotiations is resolved, will have an impact on the budget. Okay, any questions or comments?
Go ahead, Diane.
So you didn't specifically say, but the Budget Advisory Committee, are they going to be able to tell us what to do with some of the one-time money? And I'm kind of thinking what I would like to see is, I'm always looking to how do we leverage what we have. So we have this one time, is there a way we can leverage? So I guess it's a combo
Well, it's
question.
funny you should ask that. The budget, at this point, the committee is broken into 3 groups, and one of the groups is called Creativity with One-Time Money. So they are discussing all kinds of, and Al is a member of that part of that group. So we'll see what they come up with.
Any other questions? No? Okay, we're good. So,
Approval.
Approval of the actuals as presented.
we have a lot of work ahead of us in budgeting, so I have a first.
Unaudited actuals, to be clear.
I have a second by Trustee Jacobson. And any other questions or comments on the acceptance of our actual, unaudited actual report?
So just as a note, in years past, we always have an auditor come in and look over these numbers. But in years past, the adjustments have been minor. Our accounting department has been accurate in terms of putting stuff together. So, of course, they expect they'll be in the same place this year. So,
Of course.
Of course. So, but with that, this is a good look forward as to what we have to work with.
It's from my perspective, a sort of a once-in-a-lifetime situation as a result of the pandemic, that we have a lot of restorative grants and funding that's coming in, but it's like we have to find one-time uses for it. We can't make it part of our ongoing budget. So I'm ready to call a question if there's any other comments. And if there isn't, then all those in favor is 5 in the affirmative, 2 yeses from our advisory, and 2 absent. So the actuals are approved. And
Thank you.
thank you very much. So our next item is, while you're not leaving, is B, and that is resolution number 4 for the 2022-23 year. This is the appropriations limit calculations, known as the GAN limit, which I'll have our CFO explain.
Well, I won't even try to truly explain this, other than to say it's a compliance item that we need to pass every year. I believe, there must be districts somewhere that don't meet their GAN limit, but I've never experienced that. It's a large calculation that you can see in the state financial report as to how they get to it. And apparently the state has its own GAN limit that was part of why we got so much money. So I ask that you approve this so we can be compliant with state requirements.
Okay, are there any questions about approving the GAN limit report? This is a resolution that will require a roll call vote. So I'm going to need a first and a second, and then I'll call roll. So I have a first by Trustee Milrick, seconded by Trustee Nell, and all those in favor. Well, actually, yeah, I have to take the roll call vote that I was just talking about. So being this is a roll call vote, I guess I'll start at the end of the table there. Trustee Milrick. Aye. Trustee Jacobson.
Aye.
Trustee Gasson.
Aye.
Trustee Butler.
Aye.
And Trustee Nell is a yes as well. So that is officially 5-4 to absent. The resolution will pass. Would our student trustees support the measure as well? Hands up. Okay, good. So the work ahead is coming up with the budget for the next 3 years.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next is item C. This is approval of resolution number 6. This for the 22-23 year. This is the Williams Act. This is sufficiency of instructional materials, and Karen Freemantle will present.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and Superintendent. I'm happy to be here with you tonight to obtain your approval on the Williams Act for our sufficiency of instructional materials for the fiscal year of 2022-2023. You should have all the paperwork in front of you from each of our sites that have signed off on these. You will note that I think it's do we call it the fourth grade curse? There have been many a year where it seems like it's always the fourth grade math materials that are on back order. So they are coming. I am watching that delivery date fluctuate and soothing teacher nerves, but they are en route. So we just need your approval that we are clear for this year, unless you have any questions.
So to be clear, if they are on order, we get to count them as
yes,
we're compliant.
Yes,
we're not
and
doing this with empty shelves.
Correct. They want them here by, I believe it's the 8th week of school, but if they are on order, and ours have been on order since May, we are in the clear on that.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is another resolution that will require a roll call vote, and we'll have to go through a first and a second, and then I'll call roll, but we can ask any questions at this time or make any comments as well. So if there are no questions or comments, I'll be asking for a motion to approve the resolution.
So one comment, historically, the reason we do this, Williams, is there were school districts that were taking the state's money to educate students, but they didn't have the textbooks. So this was clean up a mess and not in our district, but at the state level. And So we're glad that somebody's double checking the work we do, and happy to. So I'll make the motion to approve the Gannon, or the Williams Act.
Okay. And second from Trustee Butler. And before I call roll, I'll just say that there is a definite supply chain shortage issue still in place, and paper is on that list. It's very hard to get paper.
Well, interestingly, in this process, I have learned from my repeated emails to our math rep in this case that we are down to now 5 publishing companies that publish instructional materials in the United States. So I said, okay, that's great to know. We'll have our next year's order to you in April, and see if we can't get some headway on this.
Go ahead, Trustee Gasson.
So going along with that, I'm wondering, I know that there's always the option to have actual textbooks. Is there, I mean, and part of it goes to the transition to digital copies. Is this something that there's a digital version of?
There is a digital component that that most have access to if they choose to. It is not the most user-friendly digital component. So we didn't love that part as teachers. What they're waiting on are the consumables that their kids use daily in the classroom. So they're teaching the units. Our teachers have their editions, and they're working through their standards. They're just waiting for their student workbooks.
Okay, thank you. I'm a total paper person, so I'm good with that. But I was just thinking, that I mean, that's easy to get,
right?
At least in the interim. So thank you.
I have a brief comment, and that is, it's interesting that we're discussing instructional materials, but we're going to have a staff report on IT and student devices. And from my perspective, I'm hoping that public education in the state of California will get better at adopting instructional materials with the use of technology as the tools instead of traditional materials. But I understand there'll be a transition to that, and people will have to learn how to use it, etc. But having said that, I have a first and a second to approve the resolution, so I'll call roll. Trustee Milrick? Aye. Trustee Jacobson?
Aye.
Trustee Gasson?
Aye.
Trustee Butler?
Aye.
Trustee Nell is yes as well. So the resolution will pass 5 to 2 absent. And support from our advisory trustees. Appreciate that. And we are approving the resolution, the sufficiency of instructional materials. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we'll just keep moving right along the resolution road here. This is approval of resolution number 7 for 2022-23. This is authorizing the issuance of the sale of the general obligation bonds as a result of the 2016 election. This is going to be year 2022 Series D bonds, and our CFO will present. Ms. Standing.
Hello again. So last week, Lori Ranieri of Government Financial Strategies came and did an explanation of Novato and the bond and how the sale was going to go. This is the actual resolution to start the process. It is to sell the final installment of the bonds. There's $15 million left. So we will take that and make good use of it. I've been asked by Trustee Butler to talk a little bit about ratings, which is a piece of this process that's an important piece. Novato has a good rating, and in fact, I'm having the ratings call tomorrow. Had a prep call with Government Financial Strategies yesterday, talking through the various questions they will ask. And it seems that from the last time Moody's, which is the company that does our rating, was involved was 2 years ago. I think it was a refinance, perhaps. And their big question at the time was enrollment. It was looking that declining enrollment was a real issue with the district. So I'm happy to say I'll be able to tell them that we looks like whether we've turned a corner or not, at least it hasn't gone down, that we've perhaps stabilized our enrollment, So Government Financial Strategies does not see any problem with us getting an equal rating. There was not any thought that it would increase, but, and Trustee Butler, you could probably tell me it's AA1, that's it, which is very good, and it doesn't look like there'll be any, and that helps in the sale of the bonds. That is one of the things that investors will look at and say, oh, okay, we can trust that school district to do well and be able to pay off the debt. So hopefully we'll, once this is approved, then we'll start the whole process that will lead up to the bond sale.
Okay. Do you guys have any questions?
So Lori said that people could come in and get on the call, on the actual cell call, did she schedule a date yet? September 20?
I think it's early October,
Okay.
but we can publicize that as soon as it's set.
Right. And that's, you listen in as she goes through the process of getting people who purchase bonds, which means basically give us money today in exchange for us paying them back for the next 15 or 20,
Yes.
30 years.
It's a
15
unique,
years, yeah.
It's a unique situation for us using Government Financial Strategies because in other districts or with other financial advisors, they sell through the underwriter, and it's a much more hands-off process. Lori and her people do it in her office, so that's why she's able to invite people and involve them if they're interested.
And I think in the past, we've gone through underwriters because
Yes.
so this is a really opportunity for people interested in financial management to see the inner workings.
Yes.
This is great. Do you need a motion?
I do. I do.
I'll move approval of resolution number 7, 2022-2023, authorizing issuance and sale of Series D.
So I have a motion, so this does not close off comment or question, but before we can proceed, I'll need a second to Trustee Miller's motion. So that's seconded by Trustee Gasson. Are there any other questions or comments on approval of the sale of these obligation bonds? Seeing none, I will call the question. I don't have to do a roll. I do have to do a roll call, but this is a new thing that has been legislated. Okay, so Mr. Miller, I'm going to call roll. You are Mr.
Yes, I in favor, yes.
All right, Trustee Jacobson,
Aye.
Trustee Gasson,
Aye.
Trustee Butler,
Aye.
and Trustee Nell is aye as well. So the approval will pass as 5-4, 2 absent, and 2 advisory votes as well. And we will look forward to you sending out the information about when the sale will be held.
Right, I will do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so the next item is approval of the Education Workforce Housing Workshop Series on Innovative Housing Solutions to live near work. And this is for me to bring forward. I'm not the expert at presenting board reports, but as the board is aware, we have a strategic goal to develop would be workforce housing for our employees to make it easier for them to live in Novato and work here as well. The thought being that we would put together any land assets that we are currently not using that are either designated as surplus in most cases to put that land to work in the way of workforce housing and potentially generate additional revenue for the Nevada Unified School District. What this is a training that is being hosted by the California School Board Association in partnership with the University of Los Angeles and UC Berkeley. And they've asked us to put together a team of attendees to
I just wanted to say that it does feel like this is the kind of thing that we should be looking at with one-time money, that we should invest in our future about how we're utilizing our land assets. So I wanted to say that. And then I did do some intel about the San Diego workshop. It is part of the CSBA training that I'm already going to. So if it's advantageous at all for me to be on this committee, I'm happy to do so.
Yeah, I believe that's correct. They're going to hold the second training in closed session at the CSB conference in San Diego, and currently we have 2 trustees who will be attending, and then anyone on this team would go down for that day to attend that meeting. So I think that kind of makes sense. We are going to need a couple of trustees on the board. Trustee Butler.
Is there a cost to this? Did you mention that already?
The training is at no cost, but we are responsible for travel and
We are, okay.
and room and board. There's a meeting in Los Angeles, and then there's a meeting in San Diego, and then the last 3 will be held virtually, so there won't be an expense.
Probably could go down and come back in the same day.
Probably could.
3-hour session.
So we're gonna.
I actually drive down there a lot. It would be really hard to, well, I guess you could if you flew. It just would be a little tricky. Were you?
I would just, we could sit here and go round and round and decide maybe we can decide who's interested, but I would rather take it back to staff and you, Derek, Trustee Nell, President Nell, and decide on making up a team that is most effective for this district and doing the work.
Yeah, this was sprung on us less than a week ago. We were notified that we'd made the cut, so to speak. So superintendent and I have had some conversations around recruiting the right community members and staff participants, and at the same time, maybe our goal might be to pick a couple of trustees that would be interested and could commit to the training. That's actually one of the conditions is that all of the team members have to attend all of the trainings.
Yeah.
Trustee,
and kudos to you for filling out the survey. I mean, that's how we got this. You filled something out. So
well,
thank you for doing that.
Oh, it goes deeper than that. One of the reasons this has come about is there's been changes in legislation in Sacramento on what school districts can do with their land assets. Thank you, JLAC, and lobbying efforts over the years. But essentially, things have changed, and this training in itself is a beta training. Both the grad students who are helping CSBA to run the training, it's never been done before. So they themselves will be learning and trying to come up with the best way to advise public school districts or LEAs on how to develop housing on their unused land assets. Trustee Gasson.
I think it's great. So thank you if it was whatever you did. I think this is perfect. I've been really, since I got on the board 4 years ago, wanting to get off the ground some kind of plan or outline some things. And actually one of the comments I would have is, I know it's got to be out there somewhere, but a listing of our land assets, what we have. I mean, I still am not entirely clear. I mean, I have some information about the San Andreas property, some general stuff on him, but, you know, getting a list, like, what do we have? Even if it's not something we're going to be putting housing on, but just having a big picture of that, I think would be really helpful at this point. You'd mentioned that there was two, Trustee Butler and Jacobson, are you both going to CSBI? Is that who's going?
No, the trustees that are attending are Trustee Jacobson and Trustee Magali Lament, our new
Okay.
trustee who ran unopposed.
Okay, great. So, yeah, I was thinking we've got a little bit of a shifting of the trustees here, but I would be really interested in the opportunity to go and participate. But we have a comment.
So we don't have to make a final decision on who the team members are going to be tonight, but I'm hearing that we want a couple of trustees, we want a couple of staff members, and we want a couple of community members. And I myself would like to participate as either a trustee in the beginning or a community member afterwards, and would definitely make a commitment to see it through. All right.
Would
So
it be advantageous for us to approve this motion of the monetary portion and that we're going to create this committee without naming its members today? Okay.
yeah, thank you, Trustee Jacobson. But yeah, that's one of our goals to approve the budget. We do have a set aside in trust. I just want to let everybody. The superintendent is next, but I just want to let everybody know that we do have a public comment on this now.
I just wanted to add that the template that we're going to develop, or you or the team, whoever would be developing, would have all those components that you were describing, Diane. What are our assets? What are the size of all the properties? And I think that was really important. But I think one thing, I mean, Derek did us a big service, and for us to get called Thursday night or Thursday afternoon, Derek said, "Oh my gosh, we just got this. We had to put something on the board." It was very exciting, but I think there was an attraction to our demographics and the size of our district and the amount of assets that we have. So I think those things combined with Derek's initial survey and sharing the interests of the board, I think was really important. And I think we owe you a big thank you for that. That was really great. For those who have been around a long time, we've been wanting to do something for over 20 years, or probably longer than that, what do I know. But 30, right?
Thank you. We do have in the Nevada community, the College of Marin. I don't know partner with them, but at least informed on their progress and what they're going to do.
Currently, we don't know who the other participants are, but rumor is we were competing with College of Marin, so I don't know if we got the, we'll see what
They beat us out with Mike McGuire's thing, so we should be first now. Yeah.
So it'll be a healthy endeavor, and I think hopefully as a result we'll finally get some traction on this issue and see what we can do with our employees. So I think that's we need to approve so the recommendation is to approve the budget and to put together the team. Oh, I'm going to call them. I'm just reiterating what our goal is. And now it's time for our public comment. Mr. Harris.
Thank you very much, Mr. President and Superintendent. My suggestions would be that since one of the things that will be required to bring this sort of a project to fruition is the correct zoning on the parcels, it would be, I think, prudent for the district to reach out to whatever agency it is in the city of Novato that oversees and administers the zoning changes, so that the parcels that we may have available for this kind of housing development, that they're trained to come along on this. I think probably zoning changes are going to be required in at least one of the available parcels that we have, unused parcels. I'm not sure about the others. And for community members, there is an individual in the past, I don't know what his status is, I haven't seen him in quite a while, who did a lot of development in Nevada for low-cost housing. That's Mr. Clark Blaisdell. And I'd see if he wanted to put his 2 cents in and participate in this sort of thing. He might be very useful. That's it. Thank you. So.
Russ and I met with him last year.
Yeah, about a year ago.
About a year ago
Clark
from
came in,
Virginia.
as Mr. Harris suggested, he's really knowledgeable and kind of brought us up to speed on the housing discussion going on in the community. So I think he would be happy to come and visit us again as we actually get more tangible plans.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and to be clear, just background, this school district participated in the Hamilton Housing Project. About 2,500 homes were removed from military housing and then rebuilt. Some of, and the community is better off for that. But of that, there was a set aside for public employees to get shared appreciation loans so they could move into the community they teach in. And Mr. Blaisdell reported, and we had over 100 teachers who participated in that program. So this school district has already worked towards and successfully worked towards teacher housing. It's just hidden in that public employee process around Hamilton. So this is not new for us. It's just something we need to keep working on. Thank you, President Nell.
Okay. So at this point, I think probably we should just go ahead and approve the recommendation and then let the superintendent continue to work on the recruiting. Clark's name is on the list, but it's going to come down to availability and possibilities. And obviously, then we'll come back to the board for final approval.
Okay.
So I don't think we have to take a roll call vote on this one, do we?
Although you're getting so good at it.
All right, so I have, yep. Oh, hold on. Trustee Gaston, did you have a question or comment?
When's
11th of October. The first meeting's the 12th.
I don't think we need to approve anything
Yeah,
beyond
actually, that's right. We don't have time. I think basically you're letting the superintendent and myself and Trustee Butler finalize the list based on who we can recruit in time and get to attend. And I think we have an interest from Trustee Jacobson, who's going to be down there for one of the meetings already.
I can commit to the time. I'll do whatever I'm available for those dates. Are you available for those dates too? Yeah. And
Okay, so
you have some options.
Okay, good. We will figure that out.
Yeah, I could go either way.
Yeah, I wish we had more time to bring it back for public approval, but I think at this point, based on the amount of time we have to make a decision, turn our roster in, and
Right.
make plans to go. Yeah, it's past. Yeah, I agreed. Okay, so all those in favor of moving ahead? I have.
Who's the second? Do you have a second?
Oh, I don't have
I'm
a
the
second.
first.
Trustee Butler is first. Trustee Jacobs is second. So all those in favor is Trustee Miller. You're in on this. So we have five in favor and 2 absent. And our advisory votes. You guys think it's a good idea to get some affordable workforce housing built for our teachers and staff? You do? Okay, good. All right. So we will proceed and let you guys know what we came up with. All right, we're going to move on to our next item, and that's 14. This is a staff report on our updating our IT specific to technology student devices, and our IT director, Tim Rocco, will present.
Everybody, thanks for having me back.
Sure.
I'm here tonight to talk to you about one-to-one devices and how we're supporting them, the student devices. Before I start, I want to share a little bit of context. This year, the IT team is comprised of 14 FTE, 16 individuals, 5.5 FTE are our system support team. They're comprised of engineers, analysts, and a web designer. And 7.5 of the remaining folks are help desk folks. Tech 2 for all of them except for one who's a Tech 3, which is escalation for that help desk. As the pandemic was just beginning, many of you were here. I'm sure you remember that we were just finishing our One to World initiative of getting Chromebooks out to kids. At that point in time, it was grades 3 through 12 that we were giving student devices to. Then the pandemic came and we shifted to remote learning. And as that happened, our One to World turned into a more traditional one-to-one. And then the other thing, I'm going to be flashing a bunch of numbers at you guys that's important to keep in mind as I show you those things, is that coinciding with the last number of years and the help desk requests and things that we've gotten has also been the infrastructure upgrades and the classroom toolkits that have been going out into the classrooms. So that's pretty much the entirety of the time that I've been here. So to me, this is normal, but maybe it's not entirely normal. So I guess we'll see in years to come. So the first thing that I want to start off with here is this is the student devices and how they're distributed. We've got our iPads now are in grades TK through 1, and we've got Chromebooks in grades 2 through 12. So in total right now, that's a little over 1,300 iPads that are out there and a little over 6,100 Chromebooks that are out in the schools. The other thing to take note is you'll notice that Rancho here is all red, meaning that those guys have iPads. This year we're piloting iPads at that school for the entire school, TK through 5. And the idea there that we're working with Kathnam on is we're going to see if we can make learning a little bit more visible through the use of those devices. And it's not just us that are thinking this way. I had a long conversation at the end of the last school year with the IT director from Petaluma. In Petaluma, they're TK5 iPads throughout the entire district, and considering next year going up to grade 8 with iPads. Okay, so we give all these devices to kids, and believe it or not, occasionally they break or something happens. Currently in 2022, our student loaner devices are deployed, and you can see in this bar graph how many we have to each site. Again, you'll notice that Rancho is a little bit of a standout because we keep our iPads at the Hill site. There's approximately 120 iPads left in reserve to be able to fill for kids as the iPads break. One of the things I think that we consider as we look at the iPads is, and that we want to find out as we get into this year, is whether or not they're more durable than the Chromebooks. So as it stands, you can see that at Hamilton they have as many as 30. Now these are just the loaner devices that are in the schools right now this year. Beyond that, we have another 600 devices in reserve that we can use as loaners. By and large, the way this goes is that we replace our Chromebooks at a clip of about 1/3 a year, with the idea, though, that we can get 5 years out of those things. And the ones that make it into year 4 and into year 5, those become the ones that we use as loaners. The other thing that I want to mention is that now we have Assistant Superintendent Larson, who is now also a principal. So a really great partner there to be able to work with. So in the next 2 weeks, we're going to be distributing 2 Chromebooks to each classroom in secondary classrooms so that kids no longer will have the opportunity to come to class and say, my Chromebook isn't charged, or, what have you, and then spend 45 minutes wandering the hallways as they go down to the library to get a loaner. So those will be just there. Okay. Okay, the loaners here, these devices are provided by the district. This year, we were able to apply for a grant for ECF funding, which is related to COVID, the Educational Connectivity Fund. And we're anticipating that as much as 60% of the $750,000 that we spent on student devices this last year will be coming back to us. Okay. In this slide, you're looking at the kinds of repairs that we've been faced with so far this year. In total, we've had 84 devices come back requiring some sort of fix, student devices so far this school year. Out of those, 30 have required new hardware, and this pie chart reflects the items that needed to be replaced. You can see the majority of the issues are kids losing their chargers. Okay, that's what we've seen so far this year. The time required to turn around these repairs varies based on the type of repair that it is. A software reset takes only a few minutes. It's a Chromebook. It's a quick key combination, and then you're able to reset the device back to factory standard as it came back. A keyboard or a display takes 30 to 60 minutes. And the turnaround time on that can happen typically in 7 to 14 days. The caveat there, though, and you'll see a little bit more about this in my next slide, is that sometimes we'll prioritize resolving other issues, given that we have this stock of loaners, to be able to keep taking care of people. Okay, and so that's my nice transition into looking at this graph. So what this graph shows you is the number of help desk tickets that we receive by month across the last 5 years. 2020 is clearly a standout. So that's easy to see. August is typically the busiest month of the year for us, the first month of school, really. And in the last 5 Augusts, we've seen anywhere between 1,300 and 37 help requests in that period of time. This August, we saw 2,300. We average 988 help requests per year, and in 2021, we responded to 12,350 requests. Okay. Finally, here we're looking at so this is looking beyond the repairs of student devices to how the support team spends their time in general. Just again, to give you a sense of the wave that the IT department rides at the beginning of the school year, if we received a little over 12,000 requests in all of last year, we've received a little over 4,000 requests in between September 12th and August 1st. And so this is what the team deals with by and large. So you can see the yellow, the.
Do you know why there's such a huge jump?
Well, it's because as everybody's coming back and getting into school, it's been like this every year.
Didn't you just say 1,200 all of last year?
12,000.
Oh, thank you.
If I said 1,200, I misspoke.
Yeah,
forgive me. Okay, so the largest chunk of the pie graph that you're seeing here is handled by the help desk. So that's Tech 2 and Tech 3. And then the other two largest chunks on here are rostering and system issues. So that's any kind of software that instructional staff brings back and they want to have their kids populated into a piece of software. That's essentially what that's getting at. And then the other 15% chunk is related to ARIES questions, typically classroom teachers. So that is all the details that I'm bringing to you today. I'm happy to take your questions.
Okay, let's open it up. Trustee Jacobson, then Trustee Gasson.
I know that at some point my kid did something to his Chromebook and we got it fixed, and then we got a bill.
Yeah.
Which I happily would have paid, but didn't have any information about where I would send payment. So it made me ask Jan, like, how does this work? So I'm curious if we've streamlined that process at all, if we're still doing that. How does that work?
It is something that we're working on. We're working with school sites, and again, this is a situation where, for me, it's nice to have Jen Larson being where she is, right? Because she has that perspective, and now she's at the school level. So she and I have already had conversations about how we can streamline that. And in my view, the best way to handle that is the same way that you would handle damage to a textbook and things of that nature. So that's the route that we're trying to follow.
Trustee Gasson, did you? Oh, you want to? Okay, sure. Go ahead.
Two things. Are you exactly tracking the Chromebook like 1-to-1 ratio to students? So one thing that I think is seen a lot, especially at Tamarin, is kids interchanging like Chromebooks and chargers. Is that something that you're constantly tracking, like you're constantly aware of? Because obviously some students won't have the same Chromebook they are given at the start of the year, you know, at the end of the year. Is that something like you are aware of and then tracking?
Yeah, we are. The devices are assigned to the student by name. Now, of course, the chargers aren't, and that's more generic. But the devices are assigned to the student by name, and we track that in inventory.
Okay. And then secondly, this year, a lot of the IT at San Marin has been recommending students to just buy their own charger on, like, you know, external sources like Amazon or like Best Buy. Is that something that like has been aware, has been made aware to you, or that you're?
Well, as you can see in the pie chart, kids missing their chargers is one of the issues that we're seeing. That being said, I know that the nice thing about the new Chromebooks is that they're all USB-C. So that means that you can't screw up when you go out and buy your own charger. And I know that some kids, even to be honest, did it for my own kid at her school. When she lost her charger, we went out and just replaced it ourselves.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Trustee Gasson.
So just on that, wasn't what I was going to open with as a question, but I just wanted to make note that I think it's great when we want to solve our own solutions, but we don't have the expectation to have them being replaced by parents and stuff. I mean, we going out and doing it on their own. I think, and one of the issues that I've in going to different school sites is that the PTA wants to pay for like new Chromebooks or new this or that. And actually, I think it's really helpful to hear that maybe we're not going to stick with Chromebooks. So I would like to make sure that we don't have PTAs going out and buying extra or spare Chromebooks, because it also, in my opinion, then complicates things if there needs to be repairs or what, who's going to do.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I would tack on to that purchasing a Chromebook that's not something that you can replace in the manner that we just talked about doing with the charger, because when we purchase the Chromebooks, we have to buy them with a license that allows us to manage them in the background. And if there's any PTA folks out there listening, I would encourage them to have a conversation with me if you're ever considering purchasing technology for use in the schools. We'd really like to partner with them and be able to have a voice in that conversation.
One of the things, and it was helpful to hear that the loaners that you're using are the ones that are the older Chromebooks, but just for, to get my head around how, all the Chromebooks that are out there, and we went out in phases, how old are the Chromebooks that these kids are using? Because I'm wondering, are we hitting that point where they're going to be needing even more repairs because they are getting older? Is our surplus of 5-year Chromebooks going exceptionally high, and we don't have new ones because we're waiting for this potential transfer?
It's been relatively consistent what we've been purchasing, and we've been purchasing devices at a clip of about a third of our student body every year. And the devices, but that being said, Google will support these devices with software updates and the things that we need to maintain them as secure for 5 years. So after they go beyond those 5 years, we're not keeping them. They can't stay. but there are some of them that last for 5 years. And in those cases, don't call me cheap, but you can call me frugal, right? I'm going to keep using them.
Right. Well, and I think too, in my head, I know, and I don't remember what grades they were, but I remember at one point we were told, okay, all the fifth graders turn their Chromebooks in, and then you're going to get, and again, I don't remember what grade it was, but I remember that there was a couple periods where we were like, okay, now you're going to get a new one. And so that was where I was kind of going with, are we not doing that then if we are contemplating going to iPads, or if the little kids?
Well, I don't want to get carried away as the IT guy saying that we're going to do iPads. I mean, certainly I need my partners over in Ed Services to be on board with that, and I think that's why we wanted to try the pilot and see something new. I've had some really great conversations with Kat, and I know that they're excited about what they're doing. Just from my own opinion, I think it's cool. I was visiting with Kat a couple weeks ago, and she told me that they had indoor recess during some of those days that were really hot, and she walked into a classroom and she was so gratified to see all the kids sitting there making movies. So I was like, let's do a film festival this year. Let's roll out the red carpet. Let's invite the community in, and let's let the kids show what they're able to do. I think she's interested in making that happen, although I don't want to speak for her, but I mean, I think that's the kind of thing that I'm hoping to see more of from them. And if we can come to you and we can show you the value in doing that, then, the Chromebooks, by the time we're all said and done, are costing in the neighborhood of $250, $260, and the iPads are in the neighborhood of $375 or so by the time you tack a keyboard onto that. So it's a little bit more money, but we'll see whether or not there's value there. The other thought that comes to mind as I'm talking about that is that recently I've started to hear some rumors that the federal government may consider doing something similar to E-rate, which we talked about last week when we were here, for this kind of thing. And if they did, it would give us a lot more flexibility to be able to try these kinds of things.
Okay, well, that's helpful. And the last question relates to your time, because I know you guys are spread out and doing different things. So with the toolkits having been put in classrooms and the construction upgrades and things, or do you feel like you're going to get to a point where there might just be less, so much different things that you've got going on that it won't be such a heavy load for the staff that you have? That's
really my hope. And to sort of get back to what I was talking about last time, my favorite part of the job is being in the classroom and watching how this stuff is used. And honestly, I don't get to do that as much as I would like. So I'm hoping that will be an opportunity, not just for me, but for the other people on my team as well.
Okay. Well, and that made me think, one of the choices today was something in first grade was go to the dump, and it didn't sound like a really positive thing to me, but the kids were super excited, and it had something to do with the Chromebook or whatever they had in there. So they were clearly excited about it, even though it sounded terrible. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
Go for it.
Trustee Miller,
Can I defer to my student?
Yeah, sure.
You had his hand up, then I'll go, if that's with your approval.
On the topic of the younger grades having those iPads and being creative with them, if you ever wanted to push that, I think the MSA Cinematic Arts Film Festival is a great place to look, with the kind of buzz that creates with the older kids with this equipment. But I could only imagine the kind of buzz that would create in a younger classroom. I would have gone nuts for that if iPads got funded and we have a film festival in elementary school. So big proponent of that. And if you wanted to look for an example of that being really successful, is MSA.
Yeah, thank you. I've had the same conversation with Mr. Chidell, and who knows, maybe you and I can talk some more and see if we can spin up getting some of you guys to come and hang out with the littles.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not just the movie making. I mean, getting them, telling them that they're going to make a movie, but saying, okay, I want you to use GarageBand and make your own music for it too, and do the whole deal.
Yeah, that would be spectacular. And if it wasn't obvious, I'm also in film, so it's that'd be really cool.
I think so too.
You can't have too much fun here, this is public school. Question, or actually discussion. This school district decided to go to one-on-one computers, and we did the hard work of network upgrade and other things before COVID hit. And when COVID hit, we were in a position within like 60 days of having a computer in every student's hands as they migrated to having to work from home. And that was pretty extraordinary. We were there first. But as part of the plan to have technology, one-on-one technology, be part of the educational program that we offer, this is different than chalk and blackboards. We made a commitment, because that's what the law says, is a free and appropriate public education, that we will provide the students their appropriate technology. And you referred to that when you said that you can't bring any Chromebook to campus. You need to bring the Chromebook that's authorized into the NUSD system, because we don't want kids watching whatever they feel like in the middle of class and shocking other students with whatever they might be watching. There are rules and regulations about how what content can actually be managed in a classroom, and the students' access to that. So so my question to you is, are we fulfilling the obligation of providing every student the required technology device, Chromebook or iPad, I understand you're using both, so that they can do their academic work?
Yes, sir. And the other thing that I would add to that is that having the managed Chromebook is one piece to that. But also don't forget that if they're connecting to the internet through our network, regardless of what device they're using, they're still going through our filter.
Right, so when they connect from home, because with COVID, people have been working from home, do we also run that traffic through the filter so that they're, because they are on our device?
If it's our device and they take it home, that traffic also goes through our filter.
Okay, so is it possible, if I was decided I wanted to use my own Windows computer to be part of my educational platform, can I connect, or do I have to be using the school's provided Chromebook?
Can you connect here
to do my lessons
at school?
Yeah.
Yes, you could.
I could. Can I get my lessons on it? Can I do my classwork on it? Or am I required to use the school-provided tech platform?
I think that's a question for...
I can usually answer that.
My kids have logged in on other devices, yeah.
So they do their homework on other devices?
They're required to bring their Chromebook, so my daughter has a Mac at home that she does her work, but the Chromebook she has to have for class.
Right, she has to have the Chromebook for class. So we have
but so they log
authoritative control over, that's what I'm looking for, is how do we know that we're fulfilling our obligations to the law and to our community?
But what I was going to say is as an example, so Diane, when your daughter logs into her system, I mean, typically the way that would happen is that you would log into your school account from a browser like Chrome, and once you log into that Chrome browser, that browsing environment is basically replicating the same thing that they would see on a Chromebook.
So it's still controlled. In that browser, you can't wander off and see what interesting things you can find on the internet and surprise your parents.
Well, there's still a lot kids can do.
I got that, but I want to make sure we're doing our job, providing what we promised, providing what the law requires, and providing the securities and controls. And if there's any other technology, we have a strategy to make sure we stay compliant, even if people bring their own materials.
To the best of our ability, and I would even say that we're being proactive. Even just this week, I've got some people in my department that are working on some new things that would give us a little bit more control.
I think that's true in every business as the internet gets crazier and crazier. So thank you very much for your response. Thanks.
So we have a question from our student trustee from San Marin.
Well, not a question, just to quickly elaborate. Like he mentioned, there are filters, and even even if I'm at home, if I log into my school account, my school Google account, I won't be able to watch the same things on YouTube, for example, that I can regularly watch on like my personal account.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
The account either you paid for or your parents paid for.
Well, it's free. Google accounts are free,
yeah,
but right. It's straight to educational purposes. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, your judgment about what you think is appropriate in your household is you and your family's business. But as long as it's a school account, that's not true. Okay.
Okay, so the reason that we're listening to a staff report is because I look at this from a material sufficiency perspective. I would like to think that the board, from an oversight perspective, wants to make sure that the devices we're providing they're safe, they're operable. I'm a little concerned about whether or not we have enough resources to deal with all these tickets, and so maybe that's something that needs to be discussed in a little more detail. There's all kinds of things around procedural, operational use, and we haven't even gotten into the educational materials that you receive. The classes, the curriculum, and the lessons that are intended to be taught just through the devices. And then there's also going to be a financial component to this. But I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure that technology is a real and growing part of our operation here, and we're going to have to keep a handle on it and fund it and make sure it's being done to the best of its ability. So I'm hoping that we'll continue to bring this subject forward, not only from a logistics and an operational and system, but also what are the lessons that the kids are learning, and are they aligned with the curriculum, with the core curriculum, and what do our students think we should be using, et cetera. So I think we're going to want to agendize a little bit more on IT and what we're doing as we go forward. So I think that's going to be coming. So think about it and let me know what you think we should be aware of and or could do. Mr. Solis, did you have another question or comment?
Sorry, no, I was fixing my hair. Sorry.
Yeah, you're good. Okay, so then if there are any other more questions or comments on this, then I'm going to thank you for the report today, and feel free to keep us all apprised of what's going on, and look forward to integrating technology into our instructional materials.
I look forward to telling you about it.
Okay, so if I did this right, we should be done. So thank you all for being here. This meeting is adjourned.